So when Martin Luther King was coming to have dinner with you and your husband, he was very, very late and he didn't remember exactly where your house was. So he had to go to a neighbor's house to ask where your house was. But he didn't want to go in because they would have recognized him. So he stayed in the car and Coretta went in. You said that you got a lump in your throat when you heard that. What do you think would have happened if Martin Luther King had gone up to a neighbor's door and knocked on it and asked where you lived?
Well, it would have depended entirely on which neighbor. Most of our neighbors would have been thrilled to see him. And one of them, uh, just a few doors down, was a very liberal Presbyterian minister. And I know they wouldn't have been upset. I don't know. But on the chance, which apparently was a very good chance at that time, that it would have been somebody who both recognized and disliked him, could have been very unpleasant. Um, I mean, I don't think any harm would have come to him, but it would have been insulting and embarrassing and not the way to start a nice evening.
Got it.
But I want you to know this was not just them and us for dinner. I had a dinner party and I had invited the president of our congregation and his wife and my mother and a few other friends. It's, you know, I wanted to do this sort of thing publicly, so, or in a certain amount of public life, so that um, it would, I found that I was not the only hostess on our street to people of color, but it was always quiet. Nobody ever knew about it unless the hostess told them. Well, in this case, I was so proud of it that I wanted to tell people, close friends about it before the date. But I realized that in this case, it would be what do you call it? Name dropping. That it would be bragging about a celebrity, not just letting somebody know that you were liberal.
Right.
So I didn't say anything, but we did invite other people who,
Right.
who were white and living in our neighborhood, general neighborhood.
Right. But it's not very often you get to invite. It's not very often you get to have a dinner party for and with someone who ultimately goes on to have a national holiday named after them. That's kind of a big deal. What was he like in person?
Well, he was quiet. You might say even self-effacing. Um, he, he didn't come forth in the manner of somebody who expected to be the celebrity of the day, and people asking him questions. He was, um, in the manner of almost any other polite guest that I ever had. And I don't remember the conversation, except one element of it that somebody must have asked him, "Weren't you fearful? Aren't you fearful now?" Of somebody taking a shot. And I think Coretta answered that question. I'm not quite sure, but I remember very surely what it was. And that was, in effect, we've discussed that and we know that can happen. And I get choked up even telling about it. But basically, she said, a life that's not worth dying for is not really worth living for.